Welcome back to my channel. Tonight's story is not just another chapter in the downfall of the Brown family. It's the moment the entire empire began to crumble. For years, fans thought they'd seen it all. The tears, the walkouts, the heartbreak. But what if the true betrayal was never shown on camera? What if the real story, the one that exposes the end of Kody and Robyn Brown's so-called dynasty, was buried inside a single forgotten piece of paper? Picture this. A $1 million mansion sitting atop the rolling hills of Flagstaff, Kody's self-proclaimed castle, the monument to his ego. But now that dream home carries a red for sale sign planted deep in its manicured lawn. And stamped across that sign are two words that change everything: court-ordered. How did the king and queen of polygamy fall so far, from spiritual royalty to facing legal ruin? The answer doesn't lie in TLC's carefully edited confessionals or their filtered Instagram lives. It lies in a single devastating document, one that was never meant to see the light of day. Before we uncover that document, do me one favor. Hit that like button if you're ready for the real truth. Because what I'm about to reveal is not gossip. It's the financial autopsy of a family that built its fortune on faith and lost it all to greed. Let's rewind to 2018. The Browns were fleeing Las Vegas, not out of divine revelation, but out of desperation. Kody called it a new beginning. In reality, it was a financial escape plan. They sold their homes in the cul-de-sac, pooling the profits into what Kody dramatically called the family pot, a war chest for their future, their promised land, Coyote Pass. But from day one, something was off. The numbers didn't make sense. The land was expensive, the rentals were draining their savings, and Kody's obsession with building one massive family mansion was bleeding them dry. Christine dreamed of a porch. Mary dreamed of a fresh start. Robyn dreamed of keeping Kody close. And Janelle? Janelle dreamed of something far more practical: security. For decades, Janelle had been the quiet backbone of the Brown family. The one who budgeted, who planned, who sacrificed. She poured her life savings, over $400,000, into that so-called family fund. It was her retirement, her safety net, her children's future. But while the show painted her as the dutiful wife trusting Kody's vision, behind the scenes, Janelle saw the truth. Money was disappearing. Priorities were shifting. Robyn's needs always came first. So Janelle did the unthinkable. She lawyered up, quietly, carefully, without telling a soul. She met with a financial attorney and laid everything on the table. Her message was simple: protect me. I can't be left with nothing. The result was a bombshell document titled the Coyote Pass Investment and Promissory Note Agreement. And that paper changed everything. It wasn't a family promise. It was a legally binding loan agreement, $400,000 loan to the Browns' business entity, Debsark LLC. The terms were crystal clear: repayment due within 5 years or upon the sale of Coyote Pass, with interest. And here's the dagger. Janelle's attorney inserted a personal guarantee clause, meaning if the LLC defaulted, Kody and Robyn Brown themselves would owe the full amount, personally. Their assets, their home, their finances, all on the line. Now imagine the day it was signed. Not in some cold law office, but inside Robyn's extravagant rental home. Kody skimmed the papers, arrogantly believing his divine authority made him untouchable. To him, it was just another piece of paperwork. He signed it with his usual bravado, a flick of the wrist, a smirk of control. Robyn, however, was offended. To her, a contract among family was betrayal, a sign that love and loyalty were being replaced with suspicion. But the deal had to move forward, so she signed too. Neither of them understood what they had just done. They thought it was a formality. Janelle knew it was a lifeline. They believed it was symbolic. She knew it was a trap, one that would eventually close around them. Years passed. Kody and Robyn moved into their $1 million mansion. Janelle lived in an RV, waiting for a promise that would never come true. Each month they paid that mortgage, they were effectively defaulting on their commitment to develop Coyote Pass. Every dollar that went into Robyn's luxury lifestyle, every chandelier, every collectible, every designer dress, was money stolen from Janelle's future. And she knew it. She waited, patient, silent, until the time was right. Then came the breaking point. Janelle had endured the gaslighting, the loneliness, the emotional starvation. But when the 5-year mark arrived and nothing had been paid, she didn't just walk away with her dignity. She walked away armed with the contract that could destroy them both. Because that forgotten document, the one Kody mocked and Robyn dismissed, is now the centerpiece of the legal storm that threatens to strip them of everything they own. And that court-ordered sign? It's not just about a house. It's about justice and karma signed in ink. She walked away with her lawyer's number saved on speed dial, not as a threat, but as a promise. For years, Janelle had endured manipulation disguised as unity, gaslighting masked as love, and sacrifice sold as faith. But now the tables were turning. The woman Kody had dismissed as too practical was about to show him what practicality truly meant in a courtroom. The first move was swift and precise. A formal demand for repayment, printed, sealed, and sent via certified mail to Kody and Robyn's sprawling Flagstaff mansion. The letter was not long, but it was devastatingly clear. Repayment of the $400,000 principal plus 5 years of compounded interest, a total that had now soared beyond $500,000. Inside the mansion, the delivery hit like a grenade. Our sources describe the moment vividly. Kody pacing in circles, face flushed with fury, the letter trembling in his hands. His voice, that same voice once used to command 4 wives and nearly 20 children, now cracked with disbelief. "How dare she?" he reportedly shouted. "After everything I gave her?" He stormed through the house ranting about betrayal, rewriting history in real time. To him, the money wasn't a loan. It was a family contribution. The irony, of course, was that he and Robyn were the only ones who ever benefited from those so-called contributions. Robyn, ever the emotional centerpiece, dissolved into tears. Between sobs, she accused Janelle of trying to destroy what was left of their family. "This isn't about money," she wept. "This is about love and faith. How could she do this to us?" But Janelle wasn't swayed by emotion anymore. She had spent decades hearing those same lines used as shields for financial exploitation. This time, she had the receipts, a notarized, signed legal document that neither Kody's temper nor Robyn's tears could erase. They ignored the demand. They believed their version of reality, that everything was shared, that Janelle's savings somehow belonged to the family. But belief isn't law, and soon they were about to receive a ruthless education in contract enforcement. When the payment deadline passed in silence, Janelle made her move. She filed a civil lawsuit in Arizona court, Janelle Brown versus Debsark LLC, Kody Brown, and Robyn Sullivan Brown. The complaint was simple: breach of contract, failure to repay a loan. Kody and Robyn, living in their cocoon of self-delusion, were convinced they could fight it. They hired a lawyer and spun a narrative of polygamous misunderstanding, claiming that traditional contract law didn't apply to their unique spiritual family structure. They painted Janelle as a bitter ex-wife seeking revenge. But Janelle's team didn't come armed with emotion. They came armed with evidence. And at the center of it all was the Coyote Pass investment and promissory note agreement, bearing Kody and Robyn's unmistakable signatures. For months, the battle raged quietly in legal filings and closed-door depositions, far from TLC's cameras. But it was inevitable that one day, everything would converge in a courtroom. That day came during the summary judgment hearing. No jury, no audience, just the cold weight of facts before a judge. Kody's defense was emotional, full of speeches about family unity and shared dreams. Janelle's case was clinical. Facts, contracts, numbers, signatures. The judge listened. Then Janelle's deposition was read aloud. And that was the moment the courtroom shifted. In her testimony, Janelle dismantled decades of illusion. She spoke not as a scorned wife, but as a woman reclaiming her worth. "For 30 years, she said, voice steady, "I poured everything I had into a shared dream. I built this family with my labor, with my time, and with my money. When that dream died, I was told to walk away with nothing, as if I had never existed. I will not be erased, and I will not be robbed." That final sentence hit like a verdict before the gavel even fell. It silenced Kody's theatrics and turned Robyn's tears into background noise. Because in that moment, the issue was stripped bare. This was not a love story gone wrong. This was a business deal gone bad. And Janelle was done being the unpaid investor. When the ruling came, it was swift and absolute. The judge upheld the agreement as ironclad. The signatures were valid, the terms were binding, and the defendants, Kody and Robyn Brown, were in clear default. Judgment was entered in Janelle's favor for the full amount, plus accrued interest and legal fees, totaling nearly $600,000. The court ordered immediate payment. But everyone in that courtroom knew the truth. Kody and Robyn didn't have that kind of money. Their assets were tied up in two things: a barren plot of land and a heavily mortgaged mansion. That's when Janelle's masterstroke came into play, the personal guarantee clause. The judge invoked it. The debt was no longer against a company. It was against Kody Brown and Robyn Sullivan Brown personally. A judgment lien was placed on their home. They couldn't sell it, refinance it, or touch a single dollar of its value without first paying Janelle in full. But her legal team wasn't done. They argued that waiting wasn't justice. They wanted action. They filed a motion to force the sale of the mansion, and the judge, seeing no other path, granted it. With the swing of a gavel, the Queen's castle was officially transformed into a court-ordered foreclosure. Our sources describe the final scene in haunting detail. Janelle sat at her counsel's table, posture straight, expression calm, not triumphant, but resolute. There was no gloating, no smile, just quiet justice. Across the room, Robyn wept uncontrollably, her cries echoing off the courtroom walls, the sound of a dream shattering. Kody sat beside her, motionless, jaw clenched, eyes hollow with rage and disbelief. The patriarch had been outmaneuvered. The queen had been dethroned. And Janelle, the quiet one, the steady one, had just taken back what was rightfully hers. This wasn't merely a financial victory. It was a reckoning. The court's order means their mansion will be listed for sale at a court-approved price. If Kody and Robyn delay or resist, a receiver will take control and sell it for them. A process both humiliating and final. Every cent left after the mortgage is paid will go directly to Janelle Brown. Kody and Robyn? They'll be lucky to walk away with nothing. From $1 million estate to potential renters, this is not just karma. It is the legal system confirming what fans have screamed for years. Janelle was the engine that kept that family running, and she was systematically erased from the story she helped build. Now the gavel has spoken. The debt is due. And for the first time in the Sister Wives saga, justice belongs to Janelle. Justice belongs to Janelle. Today's story isn't just about land, money, or contracts. It's about power, legacy, and the brutal unraveling of a dream that once promised eternal unity. The dream called Coyote Pass. For years, that land was supposed to be the Brown family's redemption, the sacred ground where the wounds of plural marriage would finally heal. But instead, it's become the graveyard of that fantasy. What was meant to symbolize faith, family, and forever now stands as a barren monument to betrayal, debt, and decay. Let's start with the harsh reality. Coyote Pass is no longer a dream. It's a liability. That sprawling piece of undeveloped land is co-owned by multiple family members, each with tangled emotions and unfinished business. Christine has already cut her legal and spiritual ties. Mary remains financially chained to the project but emotionally detached. The property itself sits idle, burdened by unpaid taxes, internal debt, and layers of legal tension that make it nearly impossible to liquidate. And here's the cruel twist. The judgment lien from Janelle's lawsuit now stretches directly across Kody and Robyn's share of the land. That means until the debt to Janelle is satisfied, they can't sell, build, or even refinance their portion. The dream is frozen. Their empire paralyzed. Kody's once grand vision of a polygamous paradise has died a slow, humiliating death. Not through scandal or divorce, but through the precision of a court order. The land that was once a symbol of unity has become a legal battlefield, and the only thing left standing is the paperwork that proves just how far they've fallen. But let's talk about what this really means. Because the fallout isn't just financial, it's emotional, psychological, and deeply symbolic. This lawsuit has ripped open the final curtain. The rift between Janelle and the trio, Kody, Robyn, and Mary, was already vast. But this judgment, it doesn't just widen it, it obliterates it. There's no coming back from this level of betrayal and exposure. Kody, who has spent years spinning his narrative that he's the victim, abandoned, and misunderstood, now finds himself cornered by hard, undeniable facts. No amount of camera confessions or emotional justifications can erase the signatures on that contract. He signed. He defaulted. He lost. And for once, the evidence isn't emotional. It's legal. Janelle didn't win with tears or accusations. She won with logic, foresight, and documentation. She turned what Kody always treated as a family misunderstanding into a legally binding financial reckoning. Now imagine Robyn. For over a decade, she has lived in that grand house, her fortress, her proof that she was the chosen one. That home represented her victory in the family hierarchy, her happily ever after. And now, that same house is being stripped from her by the very woman she once dismissed as quiet, reserved, and uninspired. The symbolism is staggering. The walls of that mansion were built on the broken trust of other wives. And now, piece by piece, those walls are being torn down by justice itself. Robyn will weep, of course. She'll cry about the cruelty, the instability, the unfairness of losing her sanctuary. But this time, the audience won't see a victim. They'll see the truth. They'll see a woman reaping the consequences of greed disguised as devotion. And then there's Mary, the last remnant of loyalty, still clutching to a man who publicly declared his lack of love for her. She's financially entangled in the land that now means nothing, holding on to a dream that's already been legally foreclosed. Mary's situation is tragic in its simplicity. She gave her faith, her money, and her time. But without legal protection, she holds nothing tangible in return. Meanwhile, Janelle, often dismissed as the quiet buddy wife, played the long game. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. She planned. By structuring her contributions as a loan to the family's LLC, personally guaranteed by both Cody and Robyn, Janelle changed the entire playing field. She transformed herself from a powerless spouse in a spiritual marriage into a secured creditor with full legal authority. She understood what most in the family didn't: that in court, feelings mean nothing. Paperwork means everything. And her masterstroke? The personal guarantee. Janelle knew the LLC was a hollow shell, a pass-through entity with no real assets. But by ensuring Kody and Robyn personally guaranteed the loan, she tied their mansion, their cars, and their lifestyle directly to that debt. From the moment they signed, she held the keys to their kingdom. All she had to do was wait for them to mismanage it. And they did. Spectacularly. It wasn't just clever. It was poetic. While Kody bragged about leadership and spiritual authority, Janelle was quietly building the legal framework that would one day dismantle his illusion of control. She bet on his arrogance, and she won. This changes everything about how we see the show. For years, Sister Wives was edited to make Kody and Robyn look like the stable center of the family, the ones holding the legacy together. But now, this judgment exposes the truth. Behind the polished narrative was a financial house of cards, funded by the very women they dismissed and disrespected. Kody isn't a victim. He's a defaulter. Robyn isn't the beloved wife. She's a co-signer in financial collapse. And Janelle? She's no longer the quiet peacemaker. She's the architect of justice. When the cameras roll again, how can Kody possibly stand on that barren patch of Coyote Pass and preach about faith, leadership, or family dreams, when the world now knows the land is legally shackled and the mansion is being liquidated to pay off his debt? This moment marks the ultimate reversal of power. Kody built his entire identity around control, emotional, spiritual, and financial. Janelle dismantled it without raising her voice. She didn't need confrontation or chaos. The law did the talking for her. And as the final gavel struck, a decade of manipulation, favoritism, and arrogance collapsed into a single, quiet truth. The very home Kody built to crown his favorite wife has become the currency of his downfall. That, my friends, is what poetic justice looks like. The House of Brown, once built on unity and faith, now crumbles under the weight of contracts, court orders, and consequences. And in the silence that follows, only one sound remains: the metallic click of a for sale sign being hammered into the ground. Janelle Brown's final move: the fall of the polygamist kingdom. So this is where the saga stands. The forced foreclosure is no longer a rumor, it's a countdown. The clock is ticking, and the once unshakable throne of Kody and Robyn Brown is collapsing in real time. The grand mansion, their pride, their fortress, their illusion of success, now sits under the cold authority of the court. But behind this collapse lies a quiet, methodical architect, Janelle Brown. The woman once dismissed as the practical one, the family's reluctant accountant, has proven herself the shrewdest player in the entire Brown dynasty. While others fought for affection, Janelle fought for truth. She played the long game, one of patience, documentation, and silent strategy. And when the time came, she struck not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. Janelle refused to vanish into the background, and in reclaiming her power, she rewrote the Brown family's final chapter. Now the world is asking, what comes next? Will Kody and Robyn delay the sale? Will they declare bankruptcy to preserve what's left of their empire? Or will they face the cameras and attempt to twist this disaster into another season of spiritual warfare for TLC? One thing is certain, the balance of power has shifted forever. Janelle didn't just win back her money. She reclaimed her voice, her dignity, and her agency. That's a victory no dollar amount can measure. To truly understand the devastation this ruling unleashed, we have to step inside that mansion, the so-called castle of the Brown monarchy, and witness what unfolded after the judgment. Our inside sources describe a scene of chaos and disbelief. Kody Brown, once the self-proclaimed patriarch of a celestial family, was pacing the vast great room, his anger echoing through the marble halls. "This is an attack on my faith," he reportedly shouted. "The courts don't understand our covenant. This is spiritual warfare. She's using secular weapons to destroy a celestial family." To him, this wasn't a legal loss. It was blasphemy. He couldn't comprehend that the man who once dictated family commandments was now bound by earthly law. Kody believed himself to be operating under divine authority, that his covenant, his leadership, was above contracts, signatures, or debt. But this time, his delusions met the immovable weight of the American legal system. No producer could edit his failure. No wife could shield his pride. The court order stood cold and final, a piece of paper more powerful than his patriarchal decree. While Kody raged, Robyn unraveled in her own way. Not through anger, but through performance. Her weapon has always been emotion. Our sources describe her as a woman in perpetual tears, each one carefully timed, each word a crafted plea for sympathy. In a leaked text allegedly sent to a close friend, Robyn wrote, "Janelle is forcing us to sell our home. She wants to see my children on the street. Why would she do this to us? Why hurt Sewell and Ari like this?" Notice the framing. Not about contracts, not about debt. In Robyn's story, she is not a co-signer or a participant in financial mismanagement. She's a victim of jealousy. Her sorrow is designed to rewrite the narrative, transforming Janelle's justice into cruelty and Robyn's irresponsibility into tragedy. But the truth is harsher. This foreclosure is the collapse of Robyn's entire identity. That mansion was her trophy, the proof she was the chosen wife, the queen who won. Every chandelier, every bedroom, every acre of that land symbolized her dominance. To lose it to Janelle, the wife she viewed as inferior, is the ultimate humiliation. It isn't just the loss of property, it's the death of her illusion. And while the adults fight over legacy, the real casualties are, as always, the children. For Janelle's sons, Gabe and the late Garrison, this legal victory is poetic justice. For years, they watched their mother work tirelessly while being emotionally sidelined. They endured their father's favoritism and the isolation caused by Robyn's household. To them, this isn't vengeance, it's vindication. It's the universe acknowledging what they always knew. Their mother was right. But inside Robyn's home, the narrative is reversed. Her older children, Dayton, Aurora, Brianna, have been raised to see their mother as the eternal victim. When Robyn tells Sewell and Ari that Aunt Janelle took our home, she is not just explaining loss, she is planting a seed of bitterness that may never die. This is not co-parenting. It's generational alienation disguised as heartbreak. Then there are the other wives, the ones who already escaped. Christine Brown, who fought her own battle for financial independence, was reportedly the first person Janelle called after the verdict. Their conversation wasn't triumphant, and it was spiritual. Christine is said to have told her, "You did it. You held him accountable for all of us." To her, this was more than Janelle's win. It was justice for every woman who was silenced in that family. As for Mary Brown, the tragedy runs deeper. She has no promissory notes, no legal protections, no documented claims. All she has is decades of misplaced loyalty. While Janelle used contracts, Mary used faith. And in Kody's world, faith is currency with no return. Now, as she watches Janelle's triumph unfold, she must face the chilling truth. Her devotion was not rewarded, it was exploited. And so the kingdom falls, not with a bang, but with a foreclosure notice. Kody and Robyn's reign ends where it began, in denial, surrounded by cameras, insisting it's all someone else's fault. But Janelle's quiet rebellion has changed everything. She didn't just collect a debt, she dismantled a dynasty. And in doing so, she proved that sometimes the most powerful revolution begins not with a scream, but with a signature. The fall of the Brown dynasty, how Janelle Brown's lawsuit brought down Kody and Robyn's empire. She is now a co-owner of a worthless piece of land, a dusty promise on Coyote Pass, bound to a man who despises her and a sister wife who views her as nothing more than a rival. That land, once painted as the family's sacred inheritance, now stands as a monument to delusion and debt. And for Mary Brown, the message couldn't be clearer. The court-ordered sale of Robyn's mansion isn't just a legal proceeding. It's a warning flare in the night sky, a neon sign flashing, "You're next." For Mary, this is the moment of reckoning. The walls are closing in, and unless she gets a lawyer now, before Kody drains the last drop of shared equity, she risks walking away with nothing to show for decades of loyalty. But this disaster doesn't stop at the family's doorstep. It's a crisis for TLC, a network built on emotional chaos, not legal catastrophe. Reality TV thrives on confessionals, tears, and betrayal, but it collapses under the weight of contracts, liens, and court orders. Insiders whisper that the network is in a full-blown panic. A breach of contract lawsuit isn't sexy. It's dangerous. A source close to the production revealed that Kody and Robyn's legal team sent TLC a cease and desist letter, forbidding them from mentioning the lawsuit or the judgment in any upcoming episode. They want silence, total blackout. Why? Because they need to control the story. They want to sit on that infamous beige couch, staring into the sympathetic eyes of Sukanya Krishnan, and tell America a fairy tale about downsizing and fresh starts. They want to spin a foreclosure into a spiritual reset. But here's the problem. The truth is already out. The internet knows. The forums know. The fans know. If TLC ignores this lawsuit, they won't just lose credibility. They'll lose the last thread of trust their audience still holds. Because pretending this never happened would be an insult to every viewer who has watched the Browns' slow-motion implosion for over a decade. Behind the scenes, production is scrambling to find a loophole. They're planning to use phrases like financial difficulties or unresolved family issues, hoping to blur the truth just enough to stay out of legal trouble. But there's one problem they can't edit around: Janelle's $600,000 judgment. That number is public. It's in the court records. And no amount of clever editing or sympathetic music can erase it. This is the moment the fourth wall finally collapses. The fantasy of sister wives, the illusion of unity and divine destiny, has been shattered by something as mundane, as human, and as final as a foreclosure notice. Now let's talk about humiliation, the kind you can't hide behind editing or prayer. Because a court-ordered sale isn't discreet. It's public. Painfully public. The property will hit the MLS. It'll show up on Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, everywhere. And the world will watch as Robyn's grand mansion becomes just another clickable listing. Imagine it: weekend open houses. Strangers, fans, and curiosity seekers walking through Robyn's sacred halls, peering into the walk-in closet where she once cried on camera. They'll stroll through her living room, the one she claimed was built for family gatherings, whispering about the real reason it's for sale. The fortress she built to protect her fairy tale will become a public museum of failure. And for Robyn, who has spent years cultivating the image of the perfect suffering wife, this is the ultimate nightmare. The Queen's castle has been breached not by enemies, but by nosy tourists with Zillow apps. Now, let's break down the numbers, the cold arithmetic of downfall. If they sell the house for $1, $5 million generous in this market, the reality is grim. Subtract the remaining mortgage, roughly $750,000. Then realtor commissions, another $75,000 to $90,000 gone. That leaves roughly $660,000. Then comes the first lien, Janelle's judgment. Nearly $600,000 with interest and legal fees. When the dust settles, Kody and Robyn will walk away with perhaps $50,000, maybe enough for a down payment on a modest condo. From a mansion to a middle-class rental in one brutal transaction. This isn't theft. This is justice. Janelle didn't take what wasn't hers, she reclaimed what was. If that reclamation leaves Kody and Robyn penniless, that's not her cruelty. That's their consequence. For years, the Browns paraded themselves as pioneers of plural marriage, as proof that polygamy could be modern, loving, and functional. But now, the illusion has collapsed completely. First Christine left, then Janelle. Now Mary is emotionally out the door. The lawsuit is the final nail in the coffin. It exposes the biggest lie of all, the idea that their family's money was shared, that it was a family pot. Janelle's legal action revealed the truth. There was no communal pot. There was only a pipeline, one that funneled resources into Robyn's home while everyone else was told to be patient and faithful. Kody didn't build a family. He built a financial cult, a system of devotion that benefited only him and his favorite wife. And when that system collapsed, he was left not with legacy, but with liens. This was not a spontaneous act of revenge by Janelle. It was strategy. Years in the making. She saw the iceberg long before anyone else, and instead of waiting for the ship to sink, she built herself a lifeboat. She kept receipts. She protected her name. And when the time came, she didn't scream. She didn't plead. She filed. It wasn't just about money. It was about dignity. It was about rewriting the ending of a story that had painted her as secondary. Janelle Brown, the quiet one, became the author of the final chapter. When the court documents leaked, through a Reddit user who stumbled across the Arizona filings, the internet exploded. The screenshots spread like wildfire. Within hours, hashtags like Tower Justice for Janelle were trending. Memes flooded social media. One showed Janelle sitting on a throne made of dollar bills while Cody and Robyn kneeled before her. Another labeled Robyn's mansion floor plan with captions like, "Paid for by Janelle's 401k. The people had spoken, and their verdict was swift. Janelle wasn't the villain, she was the hero. Cody, ever the narcissist, couldn't resist reading the comments. He saw the memes, the mockery, the applause for Janelle, and it broke him. For a man whose ego was built on the illusion of divine authority, this public emasculation was unbearable. He wasn't just losing money, like he was losing his mythology. In a desperate scramble, Cody and Robyn reportedly discussed everything, even a GoFundMe campaign. Yes, you heard that right. They considered asking the public to save their family home from Janelle's supposed cruelty. The idea was so delusional that even Cody backed out, realizing the internet would roast them alive. And when that failed, he tried calling family, distant relatives, old allies, begging for financial help. Every single one said no, because after years of emotional manipulation, there was nothing left for him to take. Even Mary refused, calmly, coldly, finally. The doors were closing. The phones went silent. The kingdom was gone. Meanwhile, Janelle's world was transforming. With the judgment secured, she found peace. She wasn't flaunting wealth. She was building stability. A smaller home, closer to her kids, her name alone on the deed. Her future, finally legally and emotionally hers. This is the contrast that defines the end of the Sister Wives era. Cody built castles out of other people's money. Janelle built a foundation out of her own strength. And in the end, she didn't need a camera crew or a confessional couch or a man's approval. She needed a pen, a lawyer, and the courage to walk away. When that for sale sign goes up on Robyn's front lawn, it won't just mark the loss of a house, it'll mark the end of an empire. A decade-long illusion of unity, shattered by one woman's refusal to be exploited any longer. Kody Brown didn't lose his family to fame. He lost it to arrogance. And Janelle Brown? She didn't just leave the family. She dismantled the dynasty. She didn't just win a judgment. She delivered justice. And in the echoes of the auctioneer's gavel, in the silence of that empty mansion, one truth will ring louder than all the rest. She let them think they had the castle, all while knowing she held the deed. All while knowing she held the deed.